welcome to another episode of Radio with Pictures with femLINKpacific and FemTalk 89 FM, where we bring you a chance to get to know everyday heroines from across Fiji. Our guests today on the show are Dimakita Lena, the president of the Naleba Multiracial Women's Group hailing from Labasa. We have Nila Rao, one of the few advisory councillors for Dolasi in the district of Rakiraki. We have Sapeci Vereivalu, who is representing the young women of the Koronubu group in Ba. And last but not least, from Rainbow Pride Fiji and the Nausori Women's Club, we have Vasiti Cakau. So let's start by talking about the role of women in our communities, particularly the leadership role. So Vasiti, I'm going to start with you, because you have an aunt, Nilila Rao, who's been very active as a community health worker, really making changes at the village, community, district level, influencing the way in which women who are health workers, the TOR and all of that needs to be addressed. So tell us more about the women from the Nausori Women's Club and also Rainbow Pride.
Okay. Within our as for myself, I live in a community. Within our group, we organize a group within our community. As we have in our village, we have different statues in our different clan. So within our group, we organize our group within our community.
And what are some of the activities that these different groups are involved in?
We usually do craft work and fundraising as a women's club.
And for younger women, are you finding this to be an important space?
Yes.
Because I know, a number of the issues that have come from the Nausori Women's Club in the past, over a number of years, has been the need to really, provide employment or income generating for young people, particularly young women.
Yes,
so
as for young women, we've just last month, like today, they'll be joining the craft school. So today they graduating from it as part of the young women in the village.
So they're being trained?
Yes, for the craft work.
Wonderful.
So from there they'll be doing their own business.
Okay, that's really good to know. Sapeci, in Koronubu, we heard from we've heard already on Radio with Pictures about the amount of work that women are doing in Koronubu, including in agriculture and in just community outreach and support. So as a young woman, what are you seeing and learning from the women leaders?
As a young woman, I've learned so many things from my community leaders, especially since I have an aunt who brought me into FemLINK, Vani, and she has really made a lot of changes in the Koronubu youth, with the women, and she's been a really good role model.
Great. So what kind of activities do you think or you'd like to organize with the young women of Koronubu so you can not just step up but also, take over the leadership at some stage?
I think I would like to start off with a handicraft. I'll start with that with the Koronubu youth group, and basically that.
Is it the same that, along the same lines as Vasiti, because it gives you an income?
Yes.
So it's really, the income generating is really important, isn't it?
Really important.
Nila, you're one of the few advisory councillors who are women in the Rakiraki district. So even in your community of Dolasi, you must be seeing ways in which women are supporting the community, often unrecognized, right? Tell us about what women are doing in Dolasi.
Like in Dolasi, most of them are doing their own gardening and farming, and they form their own clubs. And I go to Sangam, and it's one of the NGOs. And in that, we promote culture and tradition. Like culture means we need to see when we go to a wedding what kind of clothes we are wearing. When we go to a funeral what kind of clothes we are wearing. And then we promote sports, women need to be healthy. and then like they get together and they fundraise so that they can do some charity work. And like if there are some old ladies, they go out to help them clean up their houses, etc. And then yeah, mostly they do farming, and then we do teach them biking so that they can earn some money from them. And then like if somebody knows how to stitch, so we even teach them how to do that.
A lot of this seems to be hinging on women's economic security, right, Andima? So, you know, even with the way in which you've organized the Naleba Multiracial Women's Group, the chicken project, but also the farming, how are things in Naleba right now? What are women doing these days?
The women's in Naleba, because of the low income, mostly for my groups, they are having livestock farming. Each members, they have livestock farming, some raising chicken, some raising goats, some raising pig. And I can see that they are coming up to a step, and also women are engaged in sugarcane farming. And from the 6th month for harvesting, most of the women are connected to the harvesting too. And I can see that from that low income,
You mean they're actually cutting the cane,
cutting
right?
the cane,
Okay.
and they have their income. What from the stage I can see now, all the families, they have furniture their homes, and they paint their homes. I can see a lot of change because they are empowered.
But one thing that's not changing, and you know this as well, is the underrepresentation of women in decision making. So maybe after the break we can talk about what are some of the challenges we have to overcome, and why is it, including in the sugarcane sector, where women are planting, harvesting, even coordinating the cane to the mills, but not in the decision making.
Not in the decision making.
Stay with us. We'll be discussing that after the break. Welcome back to Radio with Pictures. We're in conversation with Dimakita Lena, Nila Rao, Sapeci, and Vasiti. Before the break, you know, we were talking about just how active women are in our different districts, but terribly underrepresented. So Nila, maybe if I could start with you, because you've been an advisory councillor for a number of years. You're a demonstrated first responder, but we're not seeing that increase in decision making, despite the political commitments, but also maybe that women don't want to put themselves out there to be nominated, or are they just not getting the information? What's the problem we have to get over?
I think the first barrier is our culture. Our culture, in our culture, it's a belief that a woman's place in the kitchen, and they need to stay home and look after the family. That's one barrier. The other one is we need to change the mindset of the men. Because like me being one advisory councillor, most of the men, they still can't accept me as one advisory councillor.
You got a hard time last year.
Last time, I had a very difficult time. But now I have overcome all that. Never mind what they are saying, but I am carrying on with my work. Because I know whatever I am doing good for the community. So those are the two main barriers.
We also heard from Permanent Secretary Baini Marama, who's responsible for NDMO, Fiji Met, and also rural development, that he's making an effort to also increase the number of women to be appointed as district officers. And he also mentioned, you know, we can also have Maramani Koros, because for a long time we were even told you can't have that. So will the change within the government system also help, do you think?
It will make a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I think, like I've talked to a lot of women, and I've advised them, motivated them to apply for this post. The other thing is, when these advertisements come out, the women are not aware of that.
Yeah.
That is another problem. And like even myself, I was not aware of that.
Yeah, we really tried to find the information ourselves, and it was very hard to even get the forms photocopied. Andima, not just for Naleba, but you've got you can see across Madawata, but also Vanuatu with your connections. Why do we still have these attitudes that need to be changed? Why do we still have those barriers, even though women are doing so much?
That's true. And what Nila say, it's it's in our culture, and the mindset of a man have to change, and like now the technology, everything is coming change, and one thing, the mindset is not change, and what we have to do, to educate the men first, educate the men or together, like the consultation we done in the north. I think we have to bring all the men and the women together so that they know what we are doing. And what I'm doing in Naleba, I have to approach first to the men before I connect to the women. So now in Naleba, most of the men are coming to change to know what we have, the leadership we own. Because the leadership is with us, with the woman, it's something natural. Never mind you don't study it, it's coming natural. If something happen across us, like disaster, it's like we know what to do because it's there with us.
Speaking of disasters, what would be your key preparedness messages if you're in those decision-making places?
My key messages for preparedness and recovery would be because I work along with the youth, so it'll be very good if more youths are educated. They know what to do when there's a natural disaster or any circumstances that they go through.
But is there a specific need for young women, given that you're hearing from Nila and Andima, there's still those barriers. We still need to inform people that there are different needs of men and women, boys and girls, persons with disabilities. So what's the specific need for young women in preparedness or response?
I think specific need for young women would be to overcome all the barriers that they have, especially the generation gap that we have with the older women. Try to approach them and walk along with them.
Okay. Do you have any additional recommendations, Andima, in terms of disaster preparedness? Lessons learned from Winston?
The lesson which have been, to educate more. Education should be taken down to the grassroots level. And like in the north, around in Nabalebu or Vanuatu or Madawata rural, the consultation has been taken just right to the coast. And it educated more, like in Langi. The first time they had a consultation there, it was only 10 women. Now, most of the women are coming, and the young women are interested because most of them are educated and they don't have any money or economic to come out from that cage. And like what the consultation done in family is taken right to the coast of Vanuatu, the CBM. Now they coming out from there. And I can see that most of the change is coming out from these three district level that because of the consultation.
So it's really that investing in ongoing education, right? Not just 1 month before something happens or after a disaster. So Nila, from your experience also, what has been, what are some of your key lessons learned and recommendations?
I think when they do the disaster management committee planning stage, I think they should include a lot of women in that, so that we can talk from our own perspective. We can tell them what the needs of the women are when they are at the evacuation centers. And then the people who come in to provide services after any disaster, I think they need to be well trained and they need to be gender sensitized, because we already have one disaster, and if something happens there will be another disaster on top of that.
Right.
So I think all these things need to be taken into account, because like whenever there is a disaster, when you go to any evacuation center, they just provide food, that's it. And they just see that there is water for them too. But like the other needs of the women, it's not there. So I think at the planning stage, we should be there to assist them, like the things needed for like women when they arrive at any evacuation center.
And do you think that, okay, if women are not applying for certain positions, reach out to the women's groups and say, where are the women?
Of course,
And
we
get
should
them
do
onto
that.
the
Yeah.
committees? What do you think, Vasiti?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Well, actually, in my opinion, women's voices have to be recognized, because we are the first responded in the own different communities in any disasters.
Right. And particularly when you live close by a river. Stay with us. After the break, we're going to talk about the 16 Days campaign. Welcome back, and thanks for joining us on Radio with Pictures. This year, the theme for the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign shines a light on the issue of barriers, including violence in all its form, to education, with a call of together we can end gender-based violence in education. All forms of violence. How do we prevent it? How do we put a stop to it, particularly when it comes to girls and their education? Vasiti, what are your thoughts on the theme for this year?
My thoughts is promote more awareness on gender-based violence and women's human rights.
What do people need to understand, and who needs to understand this awareness? Who needs to have the awareness?
All the people in the communities.
Okay.
And also women's all in the universities, and men's too, and older men's.
So everyone needs to get the information. So it's really about targeted information. Sapeci, for you as a young woman, you've obviously grown up in Bar, you went to school. Sometimes girls have to travel long distances to get to school. So what does preventing gender-based violence in education, through education, mean for you?
To me, I come from a rural area, and it's 7 kilometers away from town. So the number of the long distance travel, the young women especially, the distance they have to travel from home and to school, I think they should be more aware. They should be protected, and protection.
Naleba is 20 kilometers from Labasa town. For the girls in that community, even beyond that community, they're having to get up very early in the morning to get to school. When we think about their safety and security, what are your thoughts, Andima?
I've been sharing for some families. When I have time to move to the families, I call the father, the mother, and all the parents, and also the kids, the young girls and the young boys, especially in the multiracial community. I always say them, the relationship in the family is very important. And the way we talk, the way we talk to others in the families. Now, in our Itoke, there is a barrier, the culture. If something happened to the families, they can raise it up. They say that is your momo, that is your what. We just have a forgiveness for that, but that is wrong. But I'm sharing it to all the village close by, that firstly, the education is from home. Father and mother should be very strong by teaching the children, their young boys, their young girls, what to do, don't do this, your extended family, to show them. Like especially one example at my home, when I have some boys at my home, and if extended family come home, young girls, I have to call them, make them sit. I told them, this is your sister, this is your cousin, you don't have to talk like this. So the starting of the point is from home. It's from home. It's not only for the parents. You have to bring all the children. And us, we are very close. We don't have to open us. We can't say this for the sex, about sex in our family. But myself, I'm doing that as a leader of a church of Methodist Indian Second. I always open from the temple. When I preach, I always be open. Say that we are coming here as one family, so you can touch here, you can say kind of
we
words.
We have to really speak
we
out
have
these
to
days,
tell
don't
them
we?
so that they will know. If you don't tell them, how can they will know?
Nila, you're hearing, you know, there's a lot, and we're hearing it also through this season of Radio with Pictures, that it has to start at home. It's a responsibility of the community. But as a retired teacher, as you think about the education system and the safety and protection of girls and boys of all diversities in the schools, what needs to change? Is there any specific retraining you think teachers might need, or specific training teachers might need?
During my time, like we used to have 1 hour put out for that. Like we used to talk to the girls separately, the male teachers used to talk to the boys separately, and then we used to tell them what is a good touch, what is a bad touch to the girls, and then like if anything happens to them which they do not like, they need to come to us, and like they have to trust us to come and tell us about like what is happening to them. And then I think for a girl, the best friend is the mother. And the mother should have that relationship with a girl or a daughter, like the daughter can regard her as a friend, and then if there is any problem, the girl can share her problem with the mother.
Do you think also we need to put some responsibility on dads and sons and say, you know, just as we say girls and mums need to be talking to each other, that maybe it's also about opening up the conversation between boys and dads? What do you think, Vasiti?
Yes. It starts from home, especially women. So we are the manager in our own different homes. Without the manager, there's no teaching in the home. If they go out, they won't know what's the rules and what are the bad and the good things. Yes.
But the managers could be two managers,
No,
the mum and the dad.
I'm just talking about the women's here.
The women,
Yeah.
the women as the home managers.
Yeah, home manager.
Okay. And what responsibility do we put on the dads?
It's only for the single moms. If the other manager, they'll be protecting the kids at home, and once they're gonna go out, they'll be teaching them on what is bad and what is.
Oh, okay. So when you talk about that's about single mums. Thank you so much for joining in this conversation today on Radio with Pictures. Dimakita Lena, Nila, Sapeci, and Vasiti. Don't forget, you can continue with the conversation via our Twitter and Facebook platforms, as well as tuning in to FemTalk 89 FM. Until the next episode of Radio with Pictures, take care.